Hey guys, welcome back to this YouTube video. If you are new here, make sure that you subscribe. Today we're going to be talking about something which is, I think, very, very important as well. It's the things that people don't tell you about competing. And what we want to do in this video is basically give you as much honesty and transparency as possible, because there is so many benefits and so many amazing things with competing, but there is also an other side that you do need to know how to manage. So I'm going to basically go through every single athlete that's here today and they're going to give their insight. So Phoebe, what do they not tell you about competing?
So one of my main things that I would like to touch on about what they don't tell you when you compete is how it affects your relationship. So you'll find that you may have a standard relationship with your partner, but as you get towards the back end of your prep or like X amount of weeks in, you may find that your sex drive either totally disappears or goes down a little bit. And that is, for one, because you are super tired, you're super fatigued, you're not eating a lot of food and your output's high, you may not have time for it, or you just really don't want to have sex.
It's when your focus is so much on prep. I think sometimes you just, in a weird way, you kind of just forget, and priority-wise, or you're so focused on this prep, that's all you can kind of think about.
It's like you put the blinkers on and you still love them. It doesn't mean that your feelings towards them has changed, but your, like Jasmine says, your priorities are a little bit different. And if you are planning on potentially doing it at night time, but really you have only got 6 hours in bed, that window of 6 hours is your 6 hours of priority sleep that you need. So you might not want to take out an hour for some sexual activities. So it kind of
I think it's something when they don't tell you about this, it's like, okay, what do I do now? I think it's depending if your partner is involved in the fitness world or if they're not. I think it is that communication before they start the prep, so they you know how to manage it, you know it's kind of happening. Because I think what can happen is if this communication doesn't start before you get to that part of prep, that other partner might be like, oh, well, what's wrong with me? Have I done something wrong? And I think if that communication's there.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I think when it was my first ever prep, obviously my partner had prep before, Nathan, so he probably knew what to expect, but I didn't, and I was like, what's wrong? Why does he not want to come near me at night? Like, it's been X amount of days or weeks, and it does affect you, but the sooner you understand and realise why it's happening, the better you'll feel, and you'll be able to just forget about it and openly talk to each other about it. Because trust me, it's normal. If you speak to many other competitors, they are probably going through the same or have been through the same. So it is something that's probably not talked about enough, really, but your sex drive does kind of disappear, really.
So yeah, it's normal, but don't panic, just keep the communication there, and that's important. Thanks, Phoebe.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Should I like clap and it's like, Mel, what are you saying?
So you need to make sure that you're financially stable to compete, because it is an expensive hobby. You've got things like your entry, your tan, your bikini, your shoes, makeup, hair.
Prep spending.
Yeah, I was just the random food that you buy.
So when Mel says prep spending, what we're kind of mentioning is like you end up spending more things on random items that you usually wouldn't.
Yeah, like lettuce. You buy the best lettuce. Well, I do anyway.
Wait, which one is it? Shredded?
Shredded iceberg.
Obviously.
Getting shredded with shredded lettuce.
But yeah, I think sometimes you try and you try and plan how much it's going to cost, but sometimes you don't realise until you get into it how much financially it kind of can hit. So this is why we have things like the competing budget planner, so you can try and plan ahead. And also there are ways to go about it a little bit smarter. So people like myself, Georgia Rose Bikinis, we have Afterpay/ClearPay on the website for a reason, so you can split those costs across the months instead of thinking, oh my God, I've got to get all this
all in one go.
And if you've got a monthly salary, then that might take a massive hit on you. So yeah, I don't know if you've done any things that kind of like helped you from like a financial point of view.
paying for things kind of as you go. So like say there's a membership fee and a entry fee for a federation, or maybe you're doing more than one show, maybe paying for like the membership fee 1 month and then the entry the next month, depending on how far in advance you're planning on competing. You can get a rental bikini, that's cheaper than getting one custom made for you, doing your own tan, reusing like jewelry in multiple shows.
Also, anything like birthdays, Christmas,
Yeah.
Mother's Day,
Take advantage.
any opportunity that someone's going to buy you something, say, look, do you mind like paying for this membership, or do you mind putting a little bit of money towards my bikini?
Yeah.
Like, just, you'd be surprised how much when you think, right, how can I be creative with getting this end goal of financially competing, you start to kind of realize, oh, I can save a little bit here, I can save a little bit there. And it does massively help. Like, we have got a blog about how to save money on competing as well. And even like a tiny thing, yes, Diamante is great. The Diamante shoes are brilliant, but you don't have to buy Diamante if
Yeah,
money
it's
is
not
tight.
essential, is it?
Get
It's
the
not gonna-
plane, and Diamantes can come next year. I think your first season is probably your most expensive. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, because you don't have anything.
Yeah.
Like if you say you're in your second season, you could reuse last year's bikini, reuse the shoes, reuse the jewelry, and you kind of know a bit more about it the second time you compete because you've done it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the budget planner is like a godsend. Godsend.
I'm glad.
And it also helps with prep brain because you can tick everything off. So.
That's true. Yeah, financials, it's something that some people don't tell you about competing as much, but just make sure you're doing as much research as you can. Get on that budget planner, read the blogs, and yeah, just fully exhaust birthdays, Christmas,
Take
wedding
advantage.
anniversaries, coffee day, anything, just to try and,
Yeah, every little helps.
every little helps, definitely. Right, thanks, Mel.
No problem.
Action. Holly, what is the thing that people don't tell you about when it comes to competing?
I think something that really needs to be considered is your love for the entire process and training specifically. Because if you just go into competing because it looks glamorous, you love the look of the stage, you want to do it because you see other people do it on social media, that is not enough to carry you through the prep, because prep can get really tough. It's very, very difficult. It can be very, very challenging. And when you get to lower levels of body fat, when your food is very low, when your energy is dwindling, and you have to push yourself through a session with the same effort, the same intensity.
And you don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it. There's some days when you're like lying in bed being like, I have to train, I just don't want to do it. And not only do you have to push yourself through when you don't want to, but it's the guilt associated with that. You feel guilty because usually you love training, but at the moment you just can't even think of anything worse. And you have to realize that that is just part of the process, and you just have to push yourself through, even though it's a struggle, even though it may not be enjoyable, even though you'd rather be anywhere else on the planet. It has to carry you through. So I think a lot of people don't realize that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's the accumulation, isn't it? When it comes to that right at the end, and everything just feels really, really tough.
Yeah.
Like super, super tough.
Yeah, there are parts when you feel overwhelmed just because you have to get some steps in, or because you have to go to the shop to get some vegetables. Everything seems like the end of the world, and it's like this overwhelming feeling you have to adapt to and get used to, and realize it's normal, it's part of the process.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, how would you advise someone to kind of manage that if they're kind of like new to the sport?
I think being organised and scheduling is really, really important. Like at the beginning of my day, I have to juggle so many things at the moment. I have to write a to-do list and an exact structure about what time I'm doing what time am I getting steps, what time am I doing cardio, what time am I training, and then you know it's all neatly organised, and you can just tick them off one by one, and you won't feel this like overwhelming, oh my God, I have so much to do, because it's all planned ahead. So that's kind of the easiest thing to do.
I find for me, when like I'm really not enjoying training, I have to really make sure I'm like, right, what is going to be like my pre-workout like ritual sort of thing. So I'm like, right, I'm going to have a monster, my favourite monster, to get me like in a really nice mood. I'm going to get some good music on. I'm going to go at a time where it's not going to be too busy, so it's not going to be like, oh, I'm waiting for this person, I'm waiting for that person to kind of finish whatever like machine they've got. So when it gets really tough and I'm not enjoying it, that's when I really ramp up like my external environment to just kind of help me kind of push through that, and like I have my best music on, like you'd be surprised for me, like the power of music in those situations. Like you're able just to switch on, even though you really sometimes don't want to be there and you're really not enjoying that training session. It just gives you that extra like oomph that you kind of need.
Like what you said, like to carry you through, make a really good Spotify playlist that's motivating. Maybe like drink your favorite intra, something that tastes nice. Like all these little things, like wear your favorite outfit. Like
favorite people as well.
Go with your favorite, train with people. Like sometimes it's nice just train alone and get it done, but sometimes it can be really helpful to have a training partner that's going to carry you through the session when you feel like you're really dwindling. So just make the process as enjoyable as you can. But it comes to a point where you're just gonna have to embrace the suck and get on with it, because that's what it's going to take to get you through to the end.
100%. Love that. Thank you, babe.
Thank you.
Right, Lucy, who is a very lovely friend of mine who works for KOMPAK as well. What are we saying? What do people not talk about when it comes to competing?
So there's all of the great things that come with competing, but I think a lot of us forget about the health side of things. So obviously I feel like you need to be in a good place before you start your prep, just because it does take a really like big toll on your body. So you need to make sure that you're starting in a good place, and that anything that sort of comes along the way, you're like prepared for, I guess. And little things that we don't talk about, like things like you lose your cycle. If you're a girl out there and you have regular periods and whatnot, it's very, very possible that you may lose that during your competing season.
Yeah, like some people, they will lose it straight away. Some people are actually quite lucky and they don't lose it at all. I've personally found that I've sometimes lost it completely. Sometimes I haven't lost it at all. But it's definitely something to be aware of and to kind of just take note of, that if that does happen to you, then it's not a case of don't panic, but it is not, it's very common at the same time. But yeah, from a health perspective as well, making sure that if there is a bit of a niggle, like say for example you're just about to start prep but you've got a bit of a niggle in your knee, then get it checked over. Don't go straight into a prep and think, oh, it'll be fine, because it probably won't at the end of it.
You're going to be eating lower food, you're going to be doing more, your immune system's not going to be as good, so you're not going to be able to fight off like illnesses as well, like as you would be able to normally, and like rest and recovery might be affected as well because of the fact you're on lower food and you're got higher expenditure. So you want to make sure you're taking that into account and that you're starting off in a really good place. And if you do get any niggles whilst you're on prep, get them looked at.
Don't just like switch off and put the blinkers on, go like, oh, it's fine. Like get things checked, speak to your coach about it, and also get your bloods done. The Blood Lab, for example, are a great company to work with. Like just take care of yourself, because obviously competing can take a toll on the body, but you can do it in a way that minimizes as many health implications as possible if you do it the right way. So yeah, definitely get that done. Thank you, Lucy. I think we're going to wrap it up there, but I hope I didn't want to do this video in the hopes of like scaremongering people away from competing, but it's all about being honest and transparent with these things, because this is stuff that we've had to learn the hard way.
Trial and error.
Yeah, exactly, trial and error. So I hope this has been useful. If you haven't already, then make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.